Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Way podcast, where we learn in English poco a poco or podcast by podcast. Today, we have a new series. These are expressions that were invented by Shakespeare that we still use today. And I think that's very interesting that we are still using language that was created 400 years ago. Let's get into it.
Bienvenido al podcast de The Way. Si quieres aprender inglés y hablar con confianza, estás en el sitio correcto. Hemos ayudado a miles de personas como tú a mejorar su inglés y alcanzar sus objetivos. Visita nuestra web theway.es para conocer más sobre nuestros cursos online desde A2 hasta C1 y descubre cómo podemos ayudarte a avanzar en tu aprendizaje. Además, si necesitas una certificación oficial, también ofrecemos la opción de realizar el examen Language Pair cómodamente desde casa.
So William Shakespeare is basically the equivalent in terms of cultural significance and how famous they are, etc., etc. I would say he is the same as Miguel de Cervantes, right? In schools in South Africa, obviously, I can't compare to other countries. I don't know about England or United States or Australia, but specifically in South Africa, when you are in high school, we study these plays. So play meaning espectáculo or obra de teatro, right? So we study his plays and some of his poetry. So when I was in high school, I did, for example, Romeo and Juliet, Midsummer Night's Dream, and Othello. But did you know that we still have vocabulary that we use today in our informal vocabulary, in our language and lexicon that come from Shakespeare? So I'm only going to do two today, and every series will do two different expressions in each episode. So let's start with the first one. Okay, the first expression is in a pickle. Now, a pickle is pepinillo, all right? And when we say pickle as a verb or an adjective, we usually use it to talk about conservado en vinagre, right? You can pickle cucumbers, you can pickle garlic or chilies and stuff like that. Onions, we pickle onions as well. And it comes from the Shakespeare play called The Tempest. Now, the story of The Tempest follows Prospero, a sorcerer, or un mago, a sorcerer who is exiled to an island with his daughter Miranda. He raises a magical storm to shipwreck his enemies and uses the chance to test loyalties, seek revenge, and eventually choose forgiveness. So there's a lot of drama in The Tempest, right? And amidst all of so in the middle, amidst is a good word. In the middle of all the magic and drama, Trinculo, who is a funny character, a comedic character, he is often laughing and he's a bit of an idiot in the play. And he is often drunk. Now, drunk is when you are drinking too much, when you are drinking alcohol. And we use the term pickle sometimes in the past, not so much now, but in the past, pickle meant to be drunk, to have a lot of alcohol in your system because alcohol is fermented, okay? So in the meaning of the play, it meant that the character, Trinculo, was very drunk and totally chaos. Nowadays, in the modern meaning, it means to be in a difficult situation that you don't have the answers. It's a little bit tricky, right? So if I have to give you an example, I could say, I forgot to do my homework and now I'm in a pickle. Or I didn't phone my boss and now I'm in a pickle. He lost his passport in Paris. He's in a pickle. So it just means to be in a difficult situation that you need to sort of figure it out by yourself. Okay, let's look at number 2. Number 2 is a wild goose chase. This comes from Romeo and Juliet. Oh, the classic Romeo and Juliet. So let's break down what it means. Wild meaning salvaje, goose of ganso, and chase de cazar o perseguir. So a wild goose chase from Romeo and Juliet, it comes from when Mercutio, one of the characters, is teasing. He's like, hacer un poco bully. He's bullying Romeo a little bit. Talking about the conversation between them is like a wild goose chase. So the conversation is all over the place because they were talking in a banter. When you have banter with someone, it's a nice way to say that you are having a conversation back and forth, but in a little bit of a teasing way, a little bit of a bully. So if I had to go into what happens, let's start with what Romeo and Juliet is about. Romeo and Juliet is the tragic story of two teenagers from feuding families, meaning they were always fighting. These families were enemies, but they fell in love in the city of Verona. The secret romance, was the beginning of all of these problems and fights and misunderstandings between the two families. And at the end of the play, they both die, right? It's a very tragic story. I think it's iconically the most tragic love story that has ever been written. And although this has a tragic ending, it is a play, as in a drama, an obra de espectáculo. So it's a play that really just is full of interesting conversations and shows loyalty between friends. And there's just a beautiful friendships between people. And so this expression, a wild goose chase, is actually between the friends of Romeo and Mercutio, how they were having banter. So originally, a wild goose chase was kind of a way to talk about a horse race, una carrera de caballos, a horse race. But because of the way that they had to run, it was run here and there and here and there and here and there, like a goose, como un ganso que está volando todo lado, right? So that's where it comes from. So the original meaning in the play was to have a difficult chase or a difficult conversation to understand because it was everywhere. But now in the modern meaning, how we use it is to say that something is pointless or something is hopeless. Like you do something and it was for nothing. For example, me being a foreigner in Spain, when I have to go to the extranjería, sometimes going to the extranjería is a bit of a wild goose chase because I need something, but I need to go to this office and that office and this office and that office. And at the end of the day, I still have nothing, right? So that's what we mean. It was a wild goose chase. So if I had to give you some examples, let me use this one. It says, I went on a wild goose chase trying to find an open pharmacy, a chemist, at midnight. So usually remember that a pharmacy closes at like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, but sometimes you have a 24-hour pharmacy. But to try and find a 24-hour pharmacy is very difficult. Right, the second example says, job hunting, meaning to try and find a job. Job hunting without a clear plan can feel like a wild goose chase. So there you have it, our first two expressions that we still use from Shakespeare. Number one, in a pickle, when you are in a difficult situation, and a wild goose chase, when you run around but it is pointless and you don't get anything in the end. Let's use them in a question. Number one, have you ever been in a pickle? What happened? Number two, can you think of a time when you went on a wild goose chase? And number three, which of today's expressions do you think that you can try and use this week? Right, guys, that's it for today, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.
Si disfrutaste de este episodio y quieres llevar tu inglés al siguiente nivel, te invitamos a descubrir nuestros cursos online en theway.es, diseñados para mejorar tu fluidez y confianza en situaciones reales. Hemos ayudado a miles de personas como tú a transformar su aprendizaje. Visita ahora theway.es y realiza nuestro test de nivel interactivo de manera gratuita. Además, si necesitas una certificación oficial, también ofrecemos la opción de realizar el examen de Midterm cómodamente desde casa.